Hey everybody, welcome to the Ignited Podcast, Striking Industrial Automation Conversations. We're your hosts. I'm Travis Cox.
And I am Thomas Burke.
And we've got an amazing episode for you today that's called Where Passion Meets Production, the Taylor Guitars Manufacturing Story. We're going to explore the story behind Taylor Guitars and learn how Ignition helped a small engineering team say yes to most production requests in manufacturing. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. Please help me welcome Tyler Robertson, Automation Manager for Taylor Guitars. Thanks for coming on to the show, Tyler.
Hey, thanks, Travis. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
You know, we had the privilege of visiting Taylor Guitars back in January as part of our industry immersion program that we've had internally. And I have to say that you and your team really inspired us, and I really wanted to share your story with everyone here.
We had such a good day. It was one of the better, if not the best. It's the best corporate tour I've been a part of. So it was great. We had a great time.
So Tyler, tell me all about Taylor Guitars.
You know, hopefully anyone listening already knows us, but if you don't, we are one of, if not at any given time, the largest acoustic guitar manufacturer in the world. We make guitars in El Cajon, California, and as well as Tecate, Mexico, and we're found in stores and online the world over, and as towns, as you know, small towns, big metropolises. You go to a music store, you're likely going to find a Taylor guitar somewhere. We've been around since 1974, and the original owners of the company are still involved. Although, and we'll get into in the podcast, there's been, ongoing evolution of our company as well that we're excited about. And we just strive to make the best acoustic guitars and other musical instruments in the world. It's part of our name. Our motto is Taylor Quality Guitars, and that's what we try to stand by.
Now, Tyler, I could see that behind you. You've got some incredible guitars that are there. And if I'm not mistaken, you're also a pretty good guitar player yourself. And I know that for the audio people here, they'd like to hear you play, as well as for the video, I'd like to see you play as well. Can you do that for us here today?
Yeah, I guess guitars behind me, for anyone familiar, obviously not Taylor's. I'm at home right now in my sort of music room office. The nice part about Taylor is we're all fans. You know, we in the music industry in general is fun that way, that we get to be fans of our competition, or we're not necessarily competition with all the other brands, but it means we end up just appreciating what everyone else in the industry is doing as well, and that can be inspiring to us. So competition's great, but we also get inspired by our competitors, and we tend to collaborate with a lot of companies too. So that's the really fun part for me, being in the music equipment industry. So here's a Taylor. I get asked questions a lot, like, oh, what $10,000 model do you have at home? Kind of thing, because I have access to everything. And this is a Taylor Academy 12. One of our least expensive guitars with some blue tape on it that says Tyler's personal guitar. This is my bruise or abuse guitar that I cut holes in it. I put different knobs on it. I do. I'm trying to think of where the other holes are. This is what I do all my development on, is this guitar, because if something sounds good with this, then I scale it up to a $8,000 guitar, and it's just going to sound even better. So I guess I'll move this mic down. Sorry. If that sounds good to you, that's one of our easiest entry points into our guitars, and hopefully you get addicted and go from there. So,
well, that is absolutely incredible, and we were truly in awe when we came down to the facility, and and saw all the guitars you guys are putting together. And, thanks for sharing that with us today. And, another thing that I found incredibly interesting about Taylor Guitars is that you guys are an ESOP. Can you tell us a little bit more about that transition and what it means for you long term?
This would be our 6th year now into our ESOP journey. I've been at the company for 11 years, so I have just about exactly equal parts before ESOP and after ESOP. And it's been really rewarding that way to at least have feeling like, okay, your daily work, you can literally see the impact that it makes inside the company. Operational wise, it almost hasn't changed. So some people might draw a line in the sand and be like, oh, well, has Taylor changed before and after that? Andy Powers is our CEO. He was working as our head luthier beforehand. Bob Taylor and Kurt Listug were our co-CEOs of the company before that. They're the founders and the original owners. They're still working with the company. I could text Bob right now with a problem. He'd get back to me. So feeling wise, day to day, almost nothing's changed for me. The really satisfying part of it, though, is knowing that anyone who comes on board, we go, okay, well, you're getting some part of this. It's, you can actually work towards it. And we're one of the only companies, I don't know the statistics on this, so don't quote me, but we extend, because we have a factory in Mexico as well, in Tecate. It's an hour away from San Diego, where El Cajon, where we are. We extended ownership to our Mexican workers as well, which is not common for companies that are building on both sides of the border. So, but that was really important to us as well, because, we're a company. It's not like we have that facility over there that's building something different. Like we just last week, I was at the Tecate factory. We have people going tomorrow. Every day someone's going back and forth, or people from Tecate are coming up north. So that's been really important too from an ESOP level. And it's just, you kind of view, to me anyway, like there's companies that are ESOPs, and when you look at the way the company operates and the kind of the company culture, they're companies that I tend to like I like their products. And so I think it should impact the product. Like, it should not only make the product better so you want to buy it, but it's just something that if someone else finds that out, it's only an asset to find out, I believe.
Well, there's so much craftsmanship that goes into building the Taylor guitars. There's so much craftsmanship that you and your team do, and putting the control systems in place and being able to kind of add the automation to the factory. And so it's so cool to see that, everybody's got a stake in that, right? And you're all helping to make Taylor guitars what they are today. And it's really inspiring to see that. I guess I wish more companies were ESOP like that.
Yeah, me too. And I think on our end, it comes from like, we're like a builder company. Like that's the way we not pitch ourselves, but we view ourselves that way. Like, we like building things. We like making things. We want to keep doing that into the future. We want to make that a part of the journey. It's like, if we're just making money, we could do anything, right? But we're making guitars, so we want to make stuff. And that's why our CEO is a luthier, a guitar builder. And my boss, who's the VP, he came up through the ranks at Taylor, and he, came from cabinet making background, and he's brilliant. And that kind of like woodworking first informs even our decisions when it comes to like automating or controls cabinets. Like, just the way that we approach teaching someone how to sand something, it's the same way that we'd approach. I had to kind of relearn my craft coming on board at Taylor, because I realized the gaps in my knowledge of making things, that just the approach there is such a good approach. The result of the product is such a good product that, well, why not approach everything like that? So it's all top down there, and top down and bottom up. Yeah.
So Tyler, tell me about, you guys build great guitars. I did all my due diligence and homework of what you guys been doing. You've been in business over 50 years, really, when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, when did you guys start thinking about factory automation, and what did it look like when you first started trying to automate, the building of the guitars?
Before automation, well before my time, it really did start. Taylor started with there's actually a great podcast. I could go into the whole story, but there's a fantastic podcast on Guy Raz's How I Built This with Bob and Kurt, who started the company, that goes into the full history of them starting a shop. They used to work at a guitar shop. Then they bought the shop and started building. So it was a 2-3 man operation to begin with. Literally just building every piece by hand. But Bob would, as he says, he would work 2 days in a day. So he would work building guitars, and then he would stop building guitars at the end of the day, and then he'd work on building tools to make his next day better. And he would always do that. So he was always building tools. And eventually the tool he came across, and that was in 1974. Time goes on, and eventually the tool that he realized he needed was a CNC machine. And, saw it at a trade show, and someone else in the industry had already bought one, and said, you got to do this, convinced him to do it, and became one of the first boutique builders to get in, especially with acoustic guitars, because acoustic guitars were very much like, oh, we don't use technology. Don't use that ever. That's terrible. World's different now, but back then, so he was one of the first to just say, no, I'm using this tool. It's a tool. And that was our first foray in automation, was really early adoption of CNC machines. And then because that was so successful, and because that just allowed for massive change and growth at the company, that the door is wide open to any form of automation. So that's really where it came from, or at least the attitude towards it was, look, if we poo-pooed using a CNC machine to carve our guitar necks, then our company would have been out of business decades ago. So let's not close off our ideas to any kind of future automation. So from there, the next things we would do is started getting into some of our HVAC automation, automated dust collection and humidity control, misting, isolated misting. The controlling of moisture in woodworking is so critical, and drying, and that's a real critical part. And we still have a long way to go there for automating that better, but tighter controls on that was useful. And then we got into robotics, and that's when things, again, it was companies go on plateaus often. You knock down a big problem, and then boom, you expand from there. So we got buffing robots and spray robots, and that was game changing for us. And that was our first automation. So, and we learned from there, and 10 years later I came on board, and there's a journey towards ignition too. So
thank you very much. I wanted to hear your history, because I knew you went from being hand built to, the CNC, and then, eventually getting into robots. So, how has automation changed, though, what you guys do now? I mean, obviously you're still building the same great quality guitars, right? It didn't change that. But what it did do was help you build and do a better, more quantity probably, I suppose.
So for starters, automation generally for us, it's rework or scrap. That's what we're always saving. It's more of a quality thing. We're always going to build the same guitar, like you said. And actually, literally, we have a series called the Legacy series, which is older models that maybe we haven't made for a few years. We build them the exact same way, often with similar tooling. But now we have some automation so that instead of building 4 guitars for every 3 that make it out alive, then we're building 100 or 1,000, where it's things that help us to reduce problems that either slow us down, or the last thing we want to do is trash some really beautiful wood because of a machine problem or humidity problem and we get it warped or something. We didn't dry it properly. So that's where newer automation has come in, is building tools to help us with, for instance, like our robots that buff guitars. Can they buff a guitar better than a person? In some ways, yes. Other ways, no. Can they buff a guitar and not drop it? Yes. So that's phenomenal right there. From robotics to now, we've built more quality control equipment, and we continue into that quality control equipment where maybe automating the thing that we want to build isn't a machine that's going to provide us a lot of value because a person does it really well or really quickly or both. But we want to build in machines that maybe 3D scan a part of the guitar so that we know it was built right. Or we automate a little bit of it and we're collecting data as we automate that. So there was 2 machines I spoke about at the ICC conference last year that work in conjunction with each other, a fret press and then a 3D scanner to scan our guitar necks. And those machines have just eliminated our any sort of problems that we'd have to rework from our neck department. So it's kind of valuable. And then we get data so that we can look at trends if issues start popping up. So data-driven decisions, like every other company, like that's really where things change and where we change automation wise, is building a machine, but also having data from it that lets us make the decision for the next thing easier.
Yeah, you mentioned wood, and when we were there and doing the tour, it really is obvious, right? Like the commitment you guys have to high quality wood, to being sustainable with that. And as you said, you don't want to throw out, right? Any of that precious wood that you bring in, especially with the sustainability, culture you guys have. So I have to imagine that does provide a challenge for you in the manufacturing process.
Oh yeah, especially like we've been involved with a wood mill and planting ebony trees in Cameroon, and no one knows better than us like how hard it is to get a tree from Cameroon, Africa to El Cajon, California, let alone small bits of a tree and small pieces that you're then going to cut really precisely and want to fit perfectly and look perfect. No one knows how harder it is than us. So if we have to trash a piece because it's not going to work, it's the worst. So we try to avoid. That's one of our hallmark. When we look at our KPIs, like that's the kind of thing we're looking at. All companies look at waste, but ours is emotional, I guess.
Now I forget the stat you guys had, because you in terms of especially the ebony, right? Your sustainability goals. I forget what that you said you guys are doing. You're planting so many trees for however many you bring down, something like that. Can you share some more about that?
Yeah. I actually have to say I don't know the statistics on that, but we do have a whole section of our website or on YouTube. If you look up the Ebony Project, Taylor Guitars, it goes into deep detail about all of that. And we've worked with universities in Cameroon as well to do this responsibly. Put a lot of effort and money. Bob Taylor's put a ton of his personal time and money into it as well. It's one of his life's projects. As well as we have partnerships in Washington and in Hawaii for planting koa and ebony as well. I don't know how the ebony is going right now because that's so difficult. But we have active replanting efforts on many sides of the border.
It's just amazing. So there's a lot of other companies that can really learn from you guys. You don't just use and consume things, you actually restore things. And you guys are all about sustainability. And, I hope our audience learns from this, right? And brings back to the environment.
We have to do it. Somebody at our size has to. And as well, like there's industries that use so much more wood than we do. We're lucky that guitars are thin. It's what makes their sound. So we can, one tree gives us many, 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 many guitars. But it takes a long time for a tree to grow. So the best time to do it was 100 years ago. We can't go back that far, but maybe 10, 15 years ago, we went back in time and started. So luckily Bob did. Yeah.
It's amazing as I listen to your story about, how Taylor got started and the different things you brought in, So how did you start, or how did you guys start convincing? I mean, you knew you wanted to continue building quality guitars, but, you got a whole population of people that were never exposed to automation, right? And, so these are the guys that started the company. All they knew was how to build a guitar, right? And how did you get automation, into that fold, right? And still maintain the same quality of the guitars.
It comes back to that culture of being open to whatever's the best tool in front of you to make that guitar. Bob and Kurt, the original owners, I say original because now all the employees are owners. That was the culture they had. They were always open to it. And it wasn't like they built guitars and didn't really know the technology behind it. They kept up and were deeply involved with the manufacturing at the company. So we would run machines past Bob, when he was the CEO. Like, he would have the last sign off, and he would ask technical questions about it. And same thing with my boss, who at his core is a woodworker, but is more technical than most people I know. So there's a hefty, a high level machinery capability at Taylor. So it's never been a struggle at all to convince anyone of anything. I got brought on. So before me, there was a fellow who worked in Finish named Steve Baldwin, fantastic guy, who did all the robot programming. When he retired, I got brought on because they wanted someone who had just a bit more broad palette of engineering and programming experience, because there's just so many things left automation wise to do with the company. They're like, let's bring in someone that's their background. And then I got to Taylor and I got, holy cow, there's so much to do. But that's where bringing me on, then I first just act as a consultant really at the company, just advising on technology matters, whether it's robots or new CNC tech or vision systems, and basically all manufacturing technology ends up filtering towards me at some point. And then we also have, I should say this, we build all our own tools. So you asked about automation, but we have a full machine shop. We have a team of mechanical engineers, machinists, programmers, tool and die people. We can build almost anything in-house. So that attitude there of like, we're going to make it. We want to make something. We want to be self-sufficient. There's a lot of automation that's built in-house at Taylor. So if anyone after this is all fired up about Taylor, you can check out a factory tour on YouTube and look at some of our side bending equipment, our side presses, our UV ovens. There's been some really amazing stuff made in-house at Taylor.
So a lot of the technology you guys are developing in-house could be used in other industries as well.
Oh yeah.
You guys are kind of jump-starting everyone.
Yeah. I mean, if Lowe's would make us like a guitar building machine, we would buy it. We would absolutely buy it. But there's not a lot of automation that's geared towards our industry. And, luckily we make stuff, so we have the same challenges as other people that make stuff. But I can go out and buy a sandblasting turbine machine tomorrow. If I need to sandblast a turbine, I can do it. I cannot buy a sanding machine for guitars. Right. So it either has to be built or it has to be adapted. So we've got very used to doing that kind of thing.
You have that builder's first mentality, right? When it comes to enterprise software and to your automation systems. You have put in Ignition, and I always tell people it's a great story of literally just putting in one Ignition server, one license of that, and you and your team you have there's problems you have around the factory. You're identifying them. People are coming to you, I think, every day, right, with more and more. I want to do this. I want to do that. You guys are able to kind of build that in and deliver those solutions to people. So I guess the two-part question here is can you share a little bit more about that builders first mentality within Taylor, and then just the importance of what data has done for organization, right? Because we did talk about aging population. You have a lot of the domain knowledge. You're putting in systems. You're trying to capture a lot of different pieces, and quality, of course, with the data, the systems you have. So you're really responsible, right, to kind of bring them to that next level and putting the right tools and systems in place to get there. So can you comment to that mentality and the importance of data within your organization?
We're like a perfect sales example of why someone should buy Ignition. Like, it's such a good fit. It's the type of story, I way back when I was involved with a software integrator, and I would have killed to run across a customer that was as good of a fit. So it kind of just made, like, Ignition found us and we needed it. So that was the gist of it. What was happening was we had some machines that were built by different integrators, and we had some interfaces on those machines that were developed independently, and we had applications on them that maybe didn't consider all of our needs. I'll put everything in a positive spin. And so I started remaking some of the applications for these machines, and I was having to develop like full-fledged applications, like software applications. I'm like, this is a lot. And I'd get something that finally was kind of good enough for what we needed. And it's like, oh, man, I'm going to have to maintain this now. And then handle logins and everything. Oh, okay, great. And then that was one machine. And then the next machine was like, oh, it's different PLCs, And I'm like, okay, and I got a different application on my hands. I'm like, this is going to be crazy. Like, I can't do this. So, like, I need something that I can do this in a distributed way. I can develop the applications quickly, and not only just for HMIs, but I was looking, okay, if I'm going to do this, where do I store data, and where do I collect the data? It was really, and talk about, going from clipboards. We literally, and we still do have people like walking around with clipboards and writing things down. Sometimes it is the best way of doing something. But there's parts of our process that could easily transfer to Ignition. So once I knew about SCADA software because I liked water treatment. I don't know why. I went to Guelph University. We had a water program. I found it interesting. So I liked water treatment. So I was like, we really kind of need a SCADA system, but not a really heavy, rigid, heavy duty one. And that's how I found Ignition eventually through that. And then it was just immediate. I built my first application. We literally, had again, PLC on the desk. We looked at the light on the PLC. We made an HMI in like 10 minutes. We had the gateway installed. We pressed a button. The light came on. We're like, oh, this was easy. We had LDAP authentication, like, working in 5 minutes. Like, I'm like, oh, this is already useful, on day one. So it was so easy to get in trouble. So that was great. So we just started, I think the very first machine, I don't know if I said this on my talk, but we had like a glue robot that we did where I replaced like a C# application on it just with a little Ignition HMI. It was awesome. It was great. And then I knew how much glue we had left. And that was great.
Yeah.
I knew from my desk. So
I know you start with one problem to solve in one project, and that balloons. I know you guys have done so many different kind of projects there. How many in total have you guys built with Ignition? How many projects do you have in total?
Oh, I don't even actually know. I have like 10 active projects, but there's a project called Taylor Factory View, which is our all-encompassing perspective project that I spin off pages that are their own applications. So I don't know, we probably have 30 or 40
Wow.
Because I end up just doing business stuff through it too. It's like,
Yeah.
if someone asked me, hey, do you want to make a new logout page for the company cars? I'd be like, yeah, sure. There we go. New application. I forgot you. I didn't touch on you mentioned like an aging workforce and knowledge and data there. Long-winded way to get to data. Once we started making machines that were doing really tangible work, like I'm not an experienced luthier. I'm pretty good now, but I'm not building guitars. I'm pretty good at wood, but we have people that build incredible, beautiful, unbelievable instruments, or that can make a guitar neck that'll make you cry. So I work with those folks, and they help me make the machines. Some of the best people at it are older, and they want to get on with their lives and retire and enjoy themselves. And so, and so knowing that, then working with my coworkers that way, they're informing me on how to automate a task that then I'm taking their knowledge and building it into that machine, or building even not just what the machine is doing, but for instance, our fret press. So it records force. Every time it presses a fret in, there's a force. And for a good fret job, we can then, because we have that data, we can then start to define like, okay, well, it should look like this, these forces. And when we came into something weird, my friend Terry, who's retired, he would be like, well, you see that? That's because, in this wood, that's probably happening. In this wood, there might be more burrs in Honduran rosewood. It's softer, but there'll be more burrs. So you have to consider that. So
Wow.
It's all these little things that then we can make recipes for, that's the coolest part, where now we have a machine that, yeah, we could automate it with a PLC, and I could make an application to run the HMI, and I can do the job. But using Ignition, I can do the job and build in data collection for the same amount of time, basically. And then while that machine's running, I work on the reporting on the back end, and I can develop the reporting out as a more long-term interest to it. So that reporting side is, once we build the recipes in to do the job right, which is the knowledge of that knowledgeable person, then we have the reporting side of it, which is the other knowledge of that person. It's like you build a machine, and I get now 65-year-old Terry with 40 years experience, standing in the shop every single day, looking at every guitar neck,
Yeah.
pressing the frets in. That's invaluable.
When we did the tour, that system was pretty incredible to see. Where you take, they build the fret or the neck, they put it there. You have the fret press. You've got the vision system to kind of just look at the entirety of the neck to make sure it's what it should be. The tolerances are all there, and you're collecting some pretty fine grained data with that, as well as to who's the person who's doing that work, right? And then that information, if I'm not mistaken, goes back to them so they can do some rework if needed to ensure that every single one of those that go out is high quality. Can you share a little bit more about that project? Because I think it's so cool.
Yeah, that's our 3D scanner. So we, in our neck department, we'll make a guitar neck, and we'll put a radius into it. We'll make the neck out almost completely done, and we put frets in it, and basically it's ready to be moved on from that area. Those frets aren't going to change until it gets all the way through our factory, sprayed, colored, whatever, finished out, sanded. It's going to get all the way to our final assembly and string up. And if there was a problem on it, we would then do hundreds of hours of combined work to then only go, oh, hey, there's a problem here. And then we have to do fret work to it, which at that stage sucks because you've finished the whole thing out. So the best time to fix a bad fretwork is, well, don't do it. And then the next best time to fix it is right after you did it.
Yeah.
This 3D scanner, which is a proprietary design that I don't know if we'll ever sell someday, but we probably should to get some of our money back. For guitar necks, it's great. For anything else, it won't do it.
Well, Tyler, so what's in the future? I mean, what are you going to do next? You've got like a lot of active projects, and I really appreciate all the great work that you guys have done using Ignition, right? And I know it's helped you out, and you've continue to build quality guitars. But where do you want to go from here? I mean, what's next? What's the future?
Yeah, so part of my time is just developing on top of those applications we have, like just the 3D scanner we mentioned just last week. We had a new supervisor, so they needed to get onboarded with that process, and I was like, well, how about every day the machine will send you a Teams message with some necks to check out that had some work done on them that you can look at and learn from. So I just add that to the application. So, okay, every day you get a Teams message from the machine. And we're like, oh, that might be kind of good for everyone in the future. Great. So we can just expand on those applications to make them a bit better. Beyond that, one of the most, so we like to say yes to things. As you mentioned at the top of the show, we want to say yes to stuff. Historically, we've often not said yes to much custom work, and for a variety of reasons. One of it's a bit of the Ford ethos. You can have anything you want as long as it's black. I think that was Ford, but it simplifies everything. It streamlines production, but we also want to do cool stuff and give people options. And so if they want a hot pink guitar, gosh darn it, maybe we'll say yes from that. But some of the limiting factors is just how do you control so many SKUs and product variants without creating problems, because it's a easy trap to fall into. That there's a reason why Honda only has a certain amount of colors and a certain amount of features in their models. All that to say, so one way to do things is if we can if we can decide at game time, when you've got that piece of wood in front of you and you need to make a bit more of a custom decision with it, how do you let someone make or how do you get someone the information they need to do that work without fail? You need to give them the right information.
Yeah.
So if they need to run a program for a guitar, you need to look up that program and provide it. So if you make 20 SKUs a day, new SKUs, you either have to have someone who's sitting there and inventing the SKUs and putting the specs in, or you have a database that's based on the recipes for that operation. And so again, long-winded, sorry, but the recipification, I don't know if it's a real word, but
hey, I think it is. There you go.
yeah. So the recipification of more tasks lets us do things with less problems. So I'm building applications for different machines to look up programs, to choose programs automatically, whether it's from RFID or barcodes, based on specs, not SKUs. And it's been really successful. Our fret pressing machine runs on that. Our epoxy machine runs that way. We can make a recipe of, is it a 15-inch radius neck? Is it a 25.5-inch scale neck? Is it mahogany, or is it ebony, or is it rosewood? We put all these specs in, and if one of them matters to that function, then you do something different. So primary one, we have lasers. The lasers have thousands of programs, and sometimes it's cut little pieces of wood, and it just gets really complicated. So I build out those applications in Ignition because I know, A, I can do it, and B, even if it's a machine we don't own yet, I know if I build it in Ignition, I will be able to connect to that machine, or at least I know then I can buy that machine to connect to Ignition, and I won't have to do anything else. It just gives me a really solid platform to start on. And I know I'm not going to be limited on either side of it, in a new machine or trying to integrate with an old machine.
Well, thanks, Tyler, so much for coming on to the show and sharing the history of Taylor and what you guys are doing on the controls and automation side. I mean, you are like I said, you're a rock star over there. Like, not just with the automation, but of also being able to play So really appreciate you coming on here. And I know we're going to share with everybody here how to follow Taylor Guitars on social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. But you mentioned to me a little bit in terms of if people interested in getting guitars and understand, and learning about new releases and that kind of thing. How can they find out more about you guys?
So we're on all the usual social media. If you look for us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, that kind of thing. The best place to go though is your local music store. By far, go. We love supporting local music stores. I love them myself. I love going. You probably have an awesome one in your town. The people there are going to be the most knowledgeable, and it's the easiest way to find the right guitar for you. We have so many shapes and types of guitars, and the reason being there's a lot of shapes and types of people. So, and music that they want to play. And just because a guitar looks nice, you might get it in your hands and it's way too big or way too small for you. So definitely go to those stores. Now, some people, if you're not somewhere where you can easily get somewhere, then of course go online, check stuff out online. There's some fantastic YouTube, often physical store dealers that will look at stuff and or that review our guitars and do product launches. So YouTube is great, but always get it in your hands, play it yourself. That'll seal the deal for you and make you sure you get the right thing.
Well, thanks so much, Tyler, and as always for everybody else, please subscribe to Ignited on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You never miss an episode. Thanks again so much, and of course we'll see you next time. And maybe Tyler, can you take us out with a little bit of music here?
Thanks, guys. I appreciate the time. Oh, I don't know what I should play.